Bubbles cat, I've got a problem, and you might do as well. Oh no, it's an anti-smoking video. Not really. Stay tuned, you'll enjoy this. So I chew gum a lot. The reason I chew gum a lot is because what I'm actually chewing is Nicorette. So what happened was, when I was 17 I started smoking, when I was about 23 I stopped smoking, and when I was about 32 I started smoking, and when I was about 38 I stopped smoking, and then I started smoking again for about 6 months when in my early 40s, and then stopped that again. So I've been a smoker all my adult life, though most of the time I've been a non-smoker. And I've had fair success in quitting when I've quit, except for the last time around, which was about 8 years ago. I'm addicted to Nicorette. I'm addicted to nicotine. In SHTF, that puts me at a huge disadvantage to somebody who hasn't got any addictions. It's going to make me go through withdrawal, and that's not a good thing. And it's really not a good thing in SHTF. So what I'm going to talk about today is why we should quit addiction, specifically Nicorette addiction for me, and nicotine addiction for maybe some of you guys and girls, before SHTF, not during. Now there's a long history of promoting cigarette and pipe smoking in human history by advertising and corporations in the modern era, but tobacco is a sacred object for many First Nations peoples. But it doesn't really matter. We have enough science and we know the facts. We know it causes cancer, heart disease, stroke, bad breath, sexual impotence, etc, etc, etc. The other thing cigarette, Nicorette, nicotine addiction, and this includes e-vaping by the way, what it also does is it actually drains your money that you could be using on other things that are making you healthy and happy into something that's only purpose in life is to give you occupation and kill you. The major thrust to make smoking mainstream was during the First World War, which was 1914 to 1918 for most people, but for most Americans was 1917 to 1918, yet another war they were late for. However, the point of this is that when things change for society, what we need to do as preppers is embrace change that's positive and remove or mitigate change that's negative. So there has been anti-smoking movements throughout the modern history of smoking, and for me the modern history of smoking is from about 1900 onwards. Initially it was small groups that did it and they were quite marginalised. Most people, most adults smoked. The biggest proponent of anti-smoking was actually Adolf Hitler, and if you smoked as a Nazi it wasn't a good thing to do if you got caught doing it, because what happened was they thought you were inferior, and there was a lot of publicity amongst Germany in the 1933 to 1945 actually specifically targeted at smokers, though as far as I know the smokers weren't just because of that sent to death camps. So I'm going to put some statistics up, not many, just specifically for Team Foco because I know he's a huge fan of that. Smoking generally remains a female avoidance tactic and males tend to do it more. This is changing. The cigarette companies are quite smart and they're actually encouraging women to smoke as male rates drop, and these rates are dropping, though they're still incredibly high given the problems that we have, and America should congratulate itself, it's doing pretty well with that. However, it still remains true that the majority of people who die each year in the United States of America because of smoking is almost 500,000 a year. It is absolutely the #1 healthcare issue in the United States and in Canada. It outweighs knife attacks, car accidents, guns. So the gun lobby, which I kind of support, when we'll get into that in this video, actually would be better off if they wanted to save lives by pushing all of that effort into anti-smoking. I was looking at one American state, for example Georgia. You can see that it is absolutely the #1 killer. And I think it's important to bear in mind that although it's the #1 killer, it's also the #1 cause of chronic illness. Quality of life diminishing is actually as important at the end of life as the length of the life, but it's bad for both. Now this is the social justice warrior part. hold on, don't get too mad. Disadvantaged groups smoke more, and the reason they smoke more is because of control. For example, if you have an anti-smoking campaign aimed at single Aboriginal mothers or single First Nations mothers in a depressed part of South Dakota, that's good. Smoking is bad. Helps all the rest of it, right? The thing is, if when you actually talk to those single mothers in South Dakota, smoking may be the only single thing that they actually have control over in their lives. They may be experiencing severe poverty and spousal abuse and lack of control in every other aspect of their life. But when they reach for their smoke and they go outside to smoke with their friends, that may be the only private and controlled time they have. So if smoking is used as a psychological crutch or a support, it doesn't diminish the fact that it's going to harm you and you should quit. But there ain't much point quitting smoking if you need it, really need it, as a psychological crutch. So I just want to be clear here. E-cigarette smoking is as bad for you in terms of nicotine as cigarette smoking. And current research is showing, the research is not done by Big Tobacco, who bought out all the e-vaping stores, that it's just as addictive as cigarette smoking. And it doesn't really help most users quit. It helps them stop smoking cigarettes or pipes, but it doesn't help them quit nicotine. And it's the nicotine plus all the other stuff in it that actually is harming our health. And that's what we shouldn't be going into SHTF experiencing. Nicotine withdrawal. Not a great thing to experience. So for you men out there, I would like to point out that it does actually cause performance anxiety in terms of erectile dysfunction. You're taking a product that over time, when you get to your late 40s, early 50s, is going to make your erections more infrequent, less lengthy, and not as firm. And let's face it, that alone should make us quit. And Kitty assures me I don't have those problems. Yet. However, smoking cigarettes in terms of prepping is becoming widespread. There's absolutely very few videos out there that are telling people to quit smoking. There's a ton out there telling people to lose weight, rightly so, and to get fit and healthy, rightly so. But they're bypassing, probably because of a lack of knowledge. The fact is, the single most important health prep we can do as human beings is to quit smoking if we smoke, e-vape, or chew Nicorette gum. Sure, your great granddad lived until he was 152, smoked every day of his life, had more strippers than Uncle Al, and lived a dissolute lifestyle. What we're talking here is statistics. Statistically, if you smoke or use Nicorette or nicotine or e-vape, you are statistically going to die quicker and faster than if you didn't. You're also statistically likely to have more years of poor quality health at the end of your life than if you never smoked. Now the good news is, the sooner you quit nicotine, the better. And I'll be the last one to tell you guys out there who are smoking cigarettes and cigars to quit cold turkey. Try various methods of support. There are some medications out there that do work. There are some medications out there that replace smoking and can help you wean it off. But be bearing in mind, anything with nicotine in it is also going to be addictive. The other somewhat interesting one is in Toronto. We've now got a new anti-smoking campaign. And I think it's interesting because Toronto in a lot of ways is ahead of the curve in terms of public health, purely because of the amount of economic resources put into it and the fact it's a major urban metropolis. So the actual attack on cigarettes now is based upon littering. In Toronto, the biggest cause of litter is actually cigarette butts. And isn't that interesting? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to progressively wean myself of Nicorette. So I chew about 2 packets of these a day. That's about $100 Canadian a week. That's about 5,000 Canadian a year, about $4,000. Rationally, it's better than smoking. So what am I going to do? Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stop cheating. I'm not going to have the odd cigarette at work, which is very infrequent. I'm not going to smoke at all when smoking family arrive. I'm just not going to. That means that I'll have to not drink as much around people in smoking situations because the guard goes down. I'm going to switch my Nicorette to gum for a period of time and use lots of this. But I'm also crucially not going to do it cold turkey. Weaning down works until you get stressed and then you just redo it again. So the whole point is that I'm going to use this. Now if you've never tried to quit smoking, I do recommend this. This is step 1 of Nicotine, and you can get cheaper versions of it. And what you do is you get 21 milligrams of nicotine a day, put 1 patch on and rub it, take it off at night when you go to sleep. Now what you do over a few days is when you start to stabilize, is actually these are circular. And what I do is I cut them and I put them in a Ziploc bag in the freezer. So for example, rather than buy step 2 and step 3, so step 2 would be 14 milligrams and step 3 would be 7 milligrams. I just buy the 21 milligrams and cut them. It's the way cheaper way of doing it. It works just as well, strangely enough. So that's what I'm going to do. For the next 2 weeks or so, I'm going to go through nicotine withdrawal, because it's damn well time I did it. I'm putting myself at risk of heart disease and mouth cancer. And you guys and girls out there who are e-vaping, chewing tobacco, smoking marijuana, any of those types of things, you're putting yourself at risk of ill health. Statistically, you're going to die years younger than you should, and statistically you're going to spend a lot of those years in ill health than you shouldn't. But crucially for preppers, if you are smoking as a prepper, you are saying that you are prepared to go through nicotine withdrawal at the beginning or middle of an SHTF event. That is not the time to compromise your mental and physical function. If you're going to prep, the number 1 prep is health. And the number 1 thing most preppers who smoke or use nicotine can do is quit. Not reduce, not substitute, not change it out, but quit. So that's the message from this. If you vape, etc., bear in mind you're just as addicted to nicotine as I am with my Nicorette, and it's still going to cause you harm. Not as much harm as smoking cigarettes, but how much cancer do you want to get? A little, a lot, or none? Doesn't guarantee that. England, in fact, now has got lung cancer rates of 1 in 6 non-smokers, from 1 in 20, 30 years ago. That's multiple causation, but mostly because of air pollution, because of the lack of a green energy bill. Green energy takes diesel fumes and gasoline fumes out of the air people breathe in cities and leaves it in the ground. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed this. Please, if you do live streams and you smoke, try not to smoke. Children might be watching. People do learn that it's okay to do things by watching others, and it isn't okay. And we all know it's not okay, and we all know the health issues involved, and we all know the financial issues involved. But have you seriously thought what SHTF, a sudden SHTF, is going to be like for you if you reach for your pack of smokes and you don't have any? Sure, you can store up a huge amount of money in smoke so you don't have to suffer through it, but have you ever considered what would happen in a rural or a semi-rural or an urban environment if you're addicted to smoking and you're smoking and nobody else is? You're making a big target on yourself. It has a place. Cigarettes have a place in bartering. I have no doubt about that, because it's one of the strongest addictions going. Rumoured to be worse than heroin, though I have not yet been addicted to heroin, so I can't say, but it is incredibly strong. I will die a smoker. My goal is to stop taking nicotine or any form of cigarettes between now and when I die, and that now hopefully will be in 2 weeks. And I'm trying not to say hopefully, I'm not trying to say I'm trying to quit. I am going to quit Nicorette. It is time. I have to do it for my health, and so I can function to help Kitty and her family out in early SHTF. Anyway, I hope you guys got something out of this, and if you did, let me know below, and if you didn't, let me know below. Have a great day. Remember, in SHTF, tomorrow will always be worse than today, unless you prep. Number 1, prep's health. Number 1 thing most people who are prepping that I can see online could do is quit smoking. Doodles!